I was rather impressed with this coolant tank that I installed today. It actually has the capsule inside with dissolvable balls that allegedly extend the life of the first coolant fill. That's not going to be an issue for me because I won't be running MB coolant in this car. I'm going to be running Australian-made 10-year coolant when it comes time to fill it anyway. And for those not aware, some 124 models, mainly 6-cylinder above I believe, have a recovery tank in the right hand side fender. The hoses, of course, will all be dry rotted, cracked and leaking, and the system non-functional by now. So what I do is use the same hose that runs from the coolant tank to the top of the radiator. That's not what was done at the factory. That's what I do, and that's what I've done on my blue-black car, and the system works perfectly. My coolant level never changes. So that's that hose installed, and I also install a hose clamp, only gently tightened because that connection is not reinforced with a metal insert like normally they are when you're expected to use a hose clamp. I'll tighten that up once I've got more hose clamps. And of course that allowed me to reinstall my fender liner, finally. So I'm pretty much finished underneath there for now. All the brakes are bled. And out of interest, I wanted to open up the original coolant reservoir to see what that looks like inside. I've never seen how it works, and I was curious. This one is full of cracks, it looks disgusting, and it really is end of life. There's no way in hell I was going to use this garbage on my newly rebuilt engine. What was most interesting is that the chambers are somewhat separated inside. It's not just one large container. They do have baffles inside with only small passageways allowing the coolant to flow between. One of the chambers only has one exit at the bottom. That's the one that the top bleeder hose runs into. It also appears to collect the sediment, whether that's deliberately or not, in the further away chambers. Maybe that's the reason for the baffles and the narrow passageways. It keeps it somewhat clean. That's only a theory, I don't know that for a fact. There was no traces of those dissolvable objects in there that extend the life of the coolant. This container will be 30 years old. As for this sediment, I'm not 100% sure what it is. I think it's mainly rust and dirt, and the green colour obviously is because they were running green coolant in there. Strangely enough, it looks like it's all green, but as soon as you squish it and rub it on the table, it's all brown. So not sure what's going on there. But yes, if your container looks like that, I would be changing it because that's just disgusting. I decided to then open up the replaceable inner joints on my axle shafts. It's just a case of popping the caps, undoing the clamps on the boots, and there is a single lock ring on the back side of the shaft, and the joint can be pulled off in its entirety. So I removed that clip and basically just used a gear puller. It's not overly tight in there, not a lot of effort was required. You could probably get it out without this tool, but it just made it a bit easier for me. Now this is a shaft that I thought was junk. There is minor water ingress evidence there. It has rusted the shaft at the outside of the boot, but the joint and the balls inside are all pretty good. What you don't want to see is heavy grooves inside these channels, or flat spots on the balls, or rust or anything like that. This is probably acceptable to use again, but I've got new ones, so I'm going to use them. The other shaft that I thought was the good one is actually a complete piece of shit. It's got severe water ingress evidence, heavy rust. There's rust in the channels that the balls run in on both sides. That's pitting, not just rust. And pitting and rust on the balls as well. So that joint is complete junk. I have fears that the non-replaceable joints are also garbage as well. I don't think they're supposed to make this clicking noise. That, to me, tells me that there's clearance between the balls and their carriers. But I've already got the boots and joints, so I might as well rebuild them and see how they go. Otherwise, I can just get Chinese shafts and replace them.